The K-pop industry has built a reputation for being one of the toughest entertainment systems in the world, where every move idols make is carefully monitored long before they even get the chance to debut. And even after stepping into the spotlight, the rules don't stop. Labels continue to keep a watchful eye, forcing idols to live under some extreme restrictions fans can't believe are real. A perfect example of just how extreme these rules can get is none other than TWICE, signed under JYP Entertainment, a company notorious for being especially strict with its trainees. For what felt like forever, before the girls became one of K-pop's most successful groups, they had to survive under JYP's exhausting system, where almost every aspect of their daily lives was controlled and monitored. For starters, there are rules that apply to all trainees regardless of gender, with one of the most infamous being the segregation of boys and girls. Agencies like JYP make sure their young recruits stay focused entirely on training, and to eliminate the biggest distraction of all, romance male and female trainees are kept strictly separated. This means no casual hangouts, no friendships outside of practice, and definitely no chance for sparks to fly. And if that wasn't intense enough, there are additional rules that extend even beyond the trainee years. One particularly unusual restriction JYP himself has admitted to enforcing is a company-wide ban on entering bars that only hire female servers, a rule meant to prevent artists from being seen in questionable environments, but one that still shocked fans for how far-reaching it was. But the cherry on top in this department is the most famous rule of all, the dreaded dating ban. At JYPE, dating is considered completely off-limits for 3 years after debut, which means that even once idols step into the spotlight and start gaining global fame, they are still forbidden from experiencing normal parts of young adult life. Park Jin-young even admitted that he advises his artists to avoid meeting friends altogether during that period, urging them to devote themselves entirely to practice, and only after the 3-year mark would he allow them to introduce their partners, joking that he'd even take them out for dinner. While those are some broader rules that apply to everyone under JYP, TWICE themselves had to live under more specific restrictions, many of which followed them into the peak years of their careers. For instance, they weren't allowed to have personal social media accounts, it's rumored they had to live in dorms regardless of age or seniority, and it's said that even something as simple as going shopping required permission from a manager, supposedly for safety reasons, but also as a way of controlling their every move. Of course, their behavior was tightly monitored, with no tolerance for swearing, dating, or anything that could stain the company's carefully built image. Fans stated that even drastic changes in appearance were out of TWICE's hands, since JYP had the final say on how idols could present themselves to the public, and endorsements placed further restrictions on them because they couldn't casually mention or promote any brand they weren't officially partnered with. On top of that, like for most idols, it's assumed that TWICE was expected to remain politically neutral, meaning that while they could be seen participating in voting, they could never openly share who they supported or what causes mattered to them. When you take a step back and think about these rules, it really shows just how little personal freedom idols like TWICE actually have, especially when it comes to their online presence. For years, fans begged the members to have their own social media accounts, but it wasn't until just 3 years ago that the girls were finally allowed to open personal Instagram pages 7 years after their debut. Of course, this was a great milestone, but the odd timing sparked a huge wave of fan theories. Many pointed out that this newfound freedom coincided with the members renewing their contracts, suggesting that one of the negotiation points could have been gaining more personal autonomy over their own image. Fans were quick to note that this was definitely long overdue, with some even celebrating the idea that the group had fought for more freedom in their personal lives after dedicating nearly a decade to the company. Another area where restrictions really spill over into personal life is with drinking and the so-called clean-cut image that JYP demands from its artists. Smoking, clubbing, and drinking in public are all considered completely off-limits, not because the girls don't want to live their lives like any other young adults, but because anything that could potentially damage the company's image is treated as a major violation. TWICE themselves have been open about this at times, and Jihyo in particular has shared stories that show just how severe the standards used to be. When she was a guest on Seolpi, Jihyo talked about how these rules affected her trainee days. To her, what really stood out was how the line between personal and professional life barely existed, because the rules weren't just guidelines, they were hard boundaries with immediate consequences. The one that terrified everyone the most was the club rule, since getting caught at a club didn't mean a warning or a lecture, it meant you were done, cut from the program on the spot, your practice schedule gone, and your chances of debut disappearing overnight. For trainees who had already spent years grinding for a chance, that kind of zero-tolerance punishment was enough to keep everyone in check. Jihyo revealed that right below that on the severity scale was the ban on Suljib, which in Korea covers everything from a casual pub to a standard bar. And even the softest cases were treated seriously because if you were seen at one, you didn't just get scolded, you were suspended. That sounds less serious, but in the trainee system, a suspension is brutal, not just because it hurts your pride, but because it's a huge setback and could be the difference between debuting or getting left behind. Jihyo explained that these rules weren't necessarily rumors or distant stories from the past. She said she actively saw people face these consequences in real time, and everyone knew what happened if you crossed them. What makes things even more ridiculous is that adult trainees who were legally allowed to drink had to play by the same rules in public because the company prioritized image over age. So while they might have had a quiet drink at home with family or in a private setting where it wouldn't become a headline, stepping into a public drinking space was treated as a threat to the brand, and that brand came first always, even if the person behind it had done nothing illegal. During the interview, Jihyo was careful to point out that these were the standards from her trainee period, which was a long time ago and could be different now, but the logic behind them hasn't really changed, because JYP still builds its artists around a strong moral code and a clean image. Even years into their careers as idols, TWICE were expected to treat drinking as a touchy subject. In a radio interview, when the members were casually joking about alcohol, Jihyo quickly stepped in and admitted that their company doesn't want them to talk about it openly, especially since they have a large underage fan base. She explained that the rule was basically that they could only be more candid about alcohol once they were older, which on one hand makes sense from a branding perspective, but on the other hand also highlights just how carefully their image was controlled. Moving on, let's talk about food and how closely it's policed, because at JYP, dieting isn't just encouraged, it's part of the schedule. Trainees are expected to stay on strict plans, they're checked regularly, and whole categories of comfort food are off limits. A good example is jokbal, a traditional dish of pig trotters which is treated as a no-go because the salt, fat, and late-night culture around it don't fit the company's strict standards for an idol's image. Sana opened up about the day-to-day reality of these dieting rules on her fridge interview with Sulyun. The girls were discussing whether there was a snack that made them emotional just by thinking about it. Sulyun mentioned that thinking about chocolate still makes her tear up every now and then. When they were trainees, they were prohibited from snacking, especially in the practice room. However, that didn't stop them from still trying, because Sana revealed that it was a custom among the TWICE members to snack in secret. She explained that although JYP bans eating in the practice rooms and installs CCTV cameras to enforce it, every trainee eventually learns the camera angles and figures out the tiny blind spot where the lens can't see, so when cravings hit, they slip into that corner, unwrap a snack as quietly as possible, and eat fast before heading back to practice as if nothing happened. Sana shared she felt bad revealing this secret to the public, since new trainees will now be monitored even more strictly. The dieting culture isn't just about restricting food, it's also about the company having total control over the idols' looks and bodies. Back in 2018 during a V-Live, Momo shared just how extreme things can get. She explained that before a showcase, she was told to drop around 7 kilos in a single week, and with the clock ticking, she forced herself into an extreme routine. She revealed that her diet consisted of eating only 1 ice cube a day and then going to the gym to continue losing weight, working herself to exhaustion. This experience was so traumatic that she would cry herself to sleep, worried about her health, and worried that she wouldn't wake up the next day. It turns out her fellow members didn't even know about this brutal approach because they gasped in surprise when Momo shared the story. Jonghyun, completely taken aback, scoffed and told Momo she should have asked the staff to try this diet for themselves to see how it feels. As if the dieting culture wasn't already terrible enough, there's another disturbing rule on how identification is handled, especially for foreign members like Sana. On a recent Pink Cabinet episode with Eilit's Minju, Sana casually explained that she ended up getting a driver's license not because she wanted to drive, but because she needed a reliable form of ID for everyday life, since the company keeps hold of her passport and alien registration card as a foreign resident, which meant that whenever she was out and asked for identification, she sometimes had to prove who she was by pulling up information online. The company allegedly withholds these documents because if they get lost or stolen, replacing them can take weeks, and if it happens while the group is abroad or in the middle of a packed schedule, it could derail travel plans, delay promotions, or even create immigration issues. However, from a fan perspective, this raised a lot of eyebrows and concern. This rule suggests that an employer is controlling the most basic tools of a person's autonomy, and in many countries, not having your ID on you can be a legal problem in itself, which makes the whole practice feel uncomfortably close to a line that should should never be crossed. To many, it is a little alarming that a senior artist like Sana isn't trusted to hold her own documents, especially after nearly a decade in the industry. Some were reminded of broader global controversies where companies have confiscated passports from foreign workers as a way to exploit them for their labor, a comparison that isn't identical to K-pop but still sits uneasily when you're talking about power dynamics and personal rights. As you can see, the grip labels keep on their idols is still as strong as ever, and it's going to take lots of time and effort for it to loosen. Share your thoughts in the comments down below, and make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to not miss any new content. But if you thought JYP's rules for Twice were tough, wait until you hear what Pledis made 17 follow. Much like any other K-pop artist, 17 also had to follow certain rules set up by their agency, Pledis Entertainment. Their rules might be a little different from other companies. For example, most entertainment agencies are strictly against dating and issue a so-called dating ban on their idols. However, artists under Pledis are free to date whoever they want, and dating is even encouraged by the company. Unfortunately, there is simply no time for dating since they're pretty busy. While 17 and other Pledis artists were allowed to have relationships, the agency wasn't so lenient in other aspects. 17 are known as one of the funniest and most easygoing K-pop groups. They never fail to bring a smile to their fans' faces, and their YouTube show Going 17 is proof of how hilarious these guys can be. Watching the show, most people think that 17 are just naturally great at being funny, but they actually had to take comedy classes when they were trainees. When Hoshi revealed this unexpected memory of their trainee days, many of their fans were surprised. Hoshi appeared in an interview with the comedian Jang Do-yeon where he shared that he still remembers the 3 keys of comedy which they had to learn as trainees. Hearing Hoshi recite the 3 keys, Do-yeon couldn't hide her surprise, adding that even she didn't know what they were. Do-yeon then asked Hoshi who is the member that improved the most when it comes to comedy, and Hoshi's answer served as a confirmation that the boys must have gotten some kind of media training before. Hoshi shared that they were trained in which way to answer similar questions, and the agency always told them to answer in a way that wouldn't make the group look bad. They also often read the newspaper and made daily logs when they were trainees, which was a pleasant surprise to their fans. However, there was one rule that Pledis implemented on their trainees that even BTS's Suga was shocked to hear. In August of this year, the former member of New East, Minhyun, was a guest on Suga's YouTube show Suchwita. During the episode, Minhyun revealed the hardest part of being a trainee under Pledis. Even though it wasn't a 17 member to share this info, some of the members joined the agency around the same time as Minhyun. Minhyun debuted in 2012 after being a trainee for around 2 years, and 17's leader S-Kuz joined the agency in 2010. Hoshi and Wonwoo became trainees in 2011, so it's very likely that this ridiculous rule applied to some 17 members as well. Minhyun revealed that their agency made them drink a lot of milk when they were trainees to allegedly support their growth. The agency made them drink around 1.2 liters of milk, which Minhyun found unexpectedly difficult. Suga wondered why an entertainment company would implement such a weird rule, to which Minhyun theorized that it was because the company wanted them to grow taller. To Minhyun, drinking this much milk was harder than the training itself because he quickly grew to hate it. Unfortunately, the agency was extremely strict about this rule, and the trainees weren't able to leave the building until they drank the required amount of milk. This confession went viral on Twitter, with many people expressing their distaste towards this milk training. They couldn't imagine how difficult it was to have to go through this every single day, especially for those who were possibly lactose intolerant. There were a few who were pleased that the agency cared about the trainees' nutrition, but the majority of netizens thought this rule simply crossed the line. During one of their broadcasts from 2019, Hoshi shared that they had to take Korean traditional classes, and particularly Jonghan never missed any of those classes, even if he wasn't feeling well. The situation surrounding Pledis at that time only added to the worries they had before their debut. 17 were actually set to debut in 2013, but Pledis' financial situation plummeted and the company went bankrupt, losing all the finances they prepared for 17's debut. Because their company was unable to provide them with things necessary for their promotions, the boys had to take the matter into their own hands. On top of choreographing their dances and composing and producing all of their songs thanks to Woozi's hard work, the boys had to take on the tasks their management was originally supposed to do. In the early beginnings, Mingyu drew and printed out promotional stickers and even designed cute merch for their fans. Hoping to give the group larger exposure, Sungkwan decided to reach out to different variety shows to promote 17. It's kind of insane that idols have to go around and ask producers if they'd have them on their program, but it shows how bad the situation was back then for the agency. Even though the vice president of Pledis sold his house and those funds went straight to 17's debut, the situation didn't get any better for a long time. For weeks, the company couldn't provide the members with the equipment necessary for their performances. During music shows, the members were seen without professional ear-ins. They either wore earphones or didn't wear anything at all. The company couldn't even buy them the cheapest earphones, and the boys were forced to pay for them themselves. Not to mention that some of the members were still in school during their debut, so it was difficult for them to financially support themselves. Other members begged their parents to purchase the earphones. Seungkwan, who is the main vocalist of the group and should have been the first one to get professional equipment, was seen performing with ordinary earphones, and S.Koo's had his earphones taped to his ear. Because their agency failed to provide them with things crucial for their performances, it was impossible for the group to live in a space that would be comfortable for all 13 members. For a long time, the boys had to endure living in small dorms that often felt cramped up. Even well into their career, 17 still lived in those dorms, and they often talked about feeling like they had zero personal space. Vernon once mentioned that while he liked the fact that he never felt lonely living with so many people, he also didn't have any privacy. Seungkwan added that he didn't have a personal space either, and that he could only dream about having his own dressing room. From closets to bathrooms, the boys had to share everything, and it's safe to say that the tension was often high. Just imagine coming home from hours-long dance practice and not having enough space to wind down and relax. Because the 13 of them used to share only one bathroom, the members agreed that they had to shower only for 5 minutes. 17 didn't even have those 5 minutes of privacy during the shower because there were always 3 to 4 members showering at the same time. Thankfully, their living situation has significantly improved over time and they don't have to share the shower anymore. During their trainee days, the boys weren't allowed to speak in dialects. It doesn't sound like a real rule an entertainment company would have, but there was an instance from 2013 where Wonwoo was scolded for speaking with an accent. In the video clip, Wonwoo introduces himself in a dialect of the region he comes from, but a staff member quickly scolds him by saying, "What did we say we do when you speak in dialect? We'll see you after this." There have been numerous reports that 17 had to endure intense things from the staff, including name-calling and physical punishment as well. In a picture that circulated online years ago, some of the members are seen doing a plank as a punishment. On top of dancing from dusk till dawn, the boys followed a rigorous workout routine as trainees that went viral a few years ago. Seeing how many steps their workout routine had, netizens wondered just how they got through it all. Although 17 are incredibly diligent, it doesn't mean they have to listen to everything their agency says. In July of 2023, Mingyu went viral for indirectly responding to a ridiculous rule that HYBE created for the group and team. Since Pledis is now directly under HYBE labels, many Karats were happy to see Mingyu rebel against their agency. A fan of An Team attended one of the fan sign events the group held in July and shared their experience on Twitter. Netizens were surprised to hear about the very strict rules that were put into place for the group's fan sign. In particular, the tweet received a lot of attention after it revealed that most of the fan sign items were reviewed by staff members. One of the items then ended up being rejected because anything that was slightly girly was prohibited. The netizen shared that the staff members wrote down all 100 names of the fans that were attending and even chose the album pages for the boys to sign. The fans were then ordered to put their fan sign gifts in a basket before the event started. The netizen then shared that their gift had a ribbon on it, which is why their item was rejected. Understandably, netizens were surprised that someone even came up with this rule in the first place. A few days after the tweet went semi-viral, 17 had their fan sign event in Macau where Mingyu was seen wearing a floral wedding veil, looking like he was having a lot of fun. Both international and Korean fans shared pictures and videos of Mingyu wearing the veil, commenting that Kim Mingyu proves that true masculinity doesn't disappear because you wear some ribbons. 17's fans were also grateful that HYBE didn't try to push this ridiculous rule on them, as well as seeing the boys in different costumes and headbands is always the best part of their fan signs. Pledis wasn't the only label with harsh guidelines, as SM Entertainment's rules for aespa show just how extreme things can get.
One of the most known facts about the K-pop industry is that companies force their idols to go through rigorous training and follow strict rules. These rules mostly have to do with maintaining the pure image idols are known for, but what were the rules that aespa were made to follow in order to debut? And is SM really that strict with them? Let me walk you through it. No communication. I can't imagine my life without my phone, and you probably can't either, but aespa actually had to deal with it every day. A true nightmare. According to SM's policy, when aespa were trainees, they were not allowed to use their phones as it's seen as a distraction for their training. They could only use it during the night and Sundays, but even then there were rules. Whenever they are allowed their phones though, they're supposed to keep them on at all times and drop everything as soon as a manager contacts them. The management not only controls how long they can use their phones, but also when they use it, where they use it, and what they do, say, and post, and when they're allowed to use it. This is mostly done to see if idols are dating anyone, or if their texts contain anything negative about the company, or things related to the company. And as you can imagine, this can be pretty frustrating. But in order to not make an uproar and always be at peace with K-pop fans, the girls can't post freely what they want. No nightlife. This probably comes as no surprise, but aespa weren't spending their Friday nights clubbing, or any nights whatsoever. They were allowed to train until late, of course, and most of the trainees did it to impress the instructors. They would stay up until late, no trouble whatsoever, but the curfew would become a problem once the trainees were out of the building. While their days were spent under the watchful eye of instructors, at night, the trainees are left to look after themselves. As soon as the trainees are out of the SM building, the strict curfew takes place, and the trainees should make sure to get back to the dorms before said curfew. If they fail to make it inside before the curfew, then they're locked outside of the building. Then it's between them and, well, the bench in the park. Or maybe angry Isuman? Well, you'll be surprised, because in just a minute, I'll tell you that SM chose a bit different strategy with aespa and their rules. Don't get caught. SM Entertainment manages to surprise me every time, and this time it's for something good. It turns out that they're pretty easygoing when it comes to dating bans. I know, I didn't expect that from them either, but it's true. While other entertainment companies have pretty strict rules about who their idols date, how they're going to hide it, or whether they should date anyone in the first place, it isn't the same case for SM. Sure, it's obviously implied that dating isn't favored, and that's the reason trainees usually play it safe by staying single for the first few years of their career, but it's strictly not discouraged either. As long as the aespa members, or any SM idols for that matter, don't end up getting caught and avoid having pictures from their secret dates end up on Dispatch's homepage, nobody is going to have a problem with it. But if the members eventually choose to date someone though, Lee Soo-man has stated that he would prefer his idols date someone within the company so the situation can be more easily manageable if the news ever gets out. This rule kind of limits aespa's choices and partners to only idols and employees with SM, but with so many good-looking men in that company, I doubt that they mind the rule in the slightest. Strict diets. Based on all the previous entries in this video, it's obvious that SM follows the "we're not technically making you follow this rule, but it's better if you do anyways" route when it comes to their artists and trainees. While there are strict diet regimes in place for all trainees and idols, nobody is actually forced to follow them against their will. Debuting is a cutthroat competition though, and if trainees really want to perform on stage or even stand out amongst their peers, they'll diet to increase their chances of debuting. And while they don't force any diets on anyone, SM Entertainment sends controlled food portions to all trainees every day. These meals exclude desserts, and if the aespa members ever wanted to rebel a bit and break their diets, SM is certainly not going to pay for it. They actually have to pay for their junk food themselves in case they're not following their diets. There were also no nutritionists and dietitians to provide the trainees with advice on how to be safe when dieting. It's literally the bare minimum, and they can't even do that. Unbelievable. But their dieting seems less strict than other companies, so kudos to them for it, I guess. Constant practicing. One wouldn't even dare think of becoming an idol without the rigorous training system that the K-pop industry, and especially SM Entertainment, is known for. The aespa members were expected to constantly practice, and I mean constantly. Them and the rest of the trainees trained for as long as 12 hours. Some dedicated trainees went on for even longer because the grind never stops, I guess. The only time they got to have breaks is when they went to Korean language lessons, which hardly counts as a break, and on Sundays. Sundays must have been truly blessed days for SM trainees. Learn from your mistakes. SM has a rather unique way of urging the trainees to not make the same mistakes. First of all, everyone is extremely punctual when it comes to practice, like to the point it's worrying. If you're late or go against the rules, you have to sing while running around the practice room 10 times. The members had to train by singing while doing sit-ups and while someone was hitting their stomach in order to help them develop muscle and vocal power. This sounds more like boot camp than an entertainment company. If they happened to make a mistake, they had to write down what they did wrong and weren't allowed to practice until they acknowledged what they did wrong. They also did this after an hour of meditation when they're expected to write what mistakes they made that week. This is a rule I understand to some levels, but I can never trust these companies not to go too far with it. And also, in my opinion, physical punishments are a total no-no. Take a bow. Etiquette is also very important to SM Entertainment. This was part of the personality training the girls went through. They were taught how to sit or hold their hands while standing and erase any bad habits they might have had. They also had to always greet their seniors with a loud voice and always had to bow. Greeting and bowing well is seen as a sign of respect and someone with a good personality, so it's no surprise that this this was a part of the training. They also learned how to amplify their personas for the screen. For example, if one of the members gave the impression that she was fun and bubbly, that would become her entire personality trait whenever she was in front of the cameras. She would always be told to smile and never seem angry. They can maintain their own social media accounts, accept other jobs such as starring in television commercials, music videos, or modeling for brands, of course after consulting with their agency. This is the most important part of their training according to the trainees. The tattoo taboo. On Korean TV shows, you don't see a lot of idols reveal their tattoos publicly. They're either covered with foundation or bandages, but the point is, the tattoos can't be seen by the public. But although tattoos are still a bit of a sensitive topic in Korea, they're becoming more and more common, especially among idols. SM Entertainment has started being more public with allowing them too. In the past, they were stricter with this. Again, nothing was exactly forbidden, but you had a bit of an advantage over the other trainees if you didn't have them. And if you were to get them, they would be covered up for years until they were allowed to display them. Things seem to have changed as Ningning proudly showed her cute minimalistic tattoos on SNS. It hasn't even been 2 years since she debuted. Good for her. I hope she gets even more of them. They suit her so well. Don't be last. Ending the video with the cutest rules that the girls set up for themselves. The aespa members have been praised time and time again by netizens about how close they all are to each other despite being a rookie group. But their cute relationship was built on some rules that they established themselves in order to get to know each other and avoid any conflicts in the dorm. aespa's dorm rules were spread on various online websites, and it included a photo of a chalkboard with 5 rules for the Gwanya dorm. The rules of the dorm include: number 1, everyone must eat together. Number 2, everyone must share their things and food. Number 3, they should also share closets, and it's perfectly okay if their clothes end up getting mixed in the laundry. Number 4, every Saturday is party, which honestly makes the most sense as a rule. Number 5, the dorm is a place of friendship without regulation. And of course, one additional and the most important rule: you will be kicked out when breaking the rules. Now tell me, how can you hate these girls when their relationship is literally the cutest? And by the way, I want to see how those Saturday parties look. I have a strong feeling that it's really something. But the girls ended up adding another rule to the list, and that's all because of winter. They did an interview with Harper's Bazaar Korea where they revealed what it is and why they added it. In the past, when they had to go somewhere together, they would always try to leave at the same time. But now, whoever ends up getting ready first, leaves first. They ended up doing this because they would always be late to schedules because of winter, since she was really exhausted in the morning. It's every man for themselves in aespa when it comes to their work.
And SM isn't alone. Across the industry, idols deal with bizarre restrictions. Here are 8 of the most shocking ones ever. From faking their personalities to not being allowed to interact with fans, get ready to be surprised by the lengths K-pop idols have to go through to reach the top of the charts. JYP Entertainment went above and beyond to make their idols keep the image that they've crafted for them. By now, we all know that idols rarely show their real selves on camera, and that the traits and quirks that they show are carefully crafted by the company, but JYP really committed to the act. The 3 members of Infinite F made an appearance on Sunny's FM date in December 2014, so they could promote their song Heartbeat. During the show, L's image as Infinite's mysterious member was discussed, and spoiler alert, it was all an act. According to L himself, whose real name is Kim Young-soo, he had been told by the agency to mostly stay quiet during the interviews that the group would have so that he would sell the idea of the mysterious visual member. The members explained, "When we're promoting as Infinite, L says almost nothing. The company gave him the concept of not talking." L himself shared, "People think that I don't talk and I'm not good at talking, but that's not true. I was oppressed until now. I'm revealing this for the first time here, but I'm really good at talking." This could be seen in Infinite's variety show appearances, where L's mysterious image would slip and he would act like himself, but mostly he did what JYP Entertainment asked of him, which was to follow his silent, mysterious image. Thankfully, the more he promoted, the more L opened up and let the image that the company forced him to acquire disappear. SM Entertainment did this as well, actually. Jaejung of Dolbang Shingi and NCT's Jaehyun were also told not to talk that much so that they would appear silent and mysterious to the audience. Jaehyun's image change especially gave people whiplash, as during SM rookie days, he had a cutesy image where he smiled a lot and spoke in a high-pitched voice. Then when he debuted, he was all cool and quiet under SM's orders. Big Hit operated the same way when it came to BTS's Jin, as during their debut days, he was made to appear cool and calm to exude that dark, handsome rich boy image. Along with a signed lead personalities, it's a known fact that idols don't get to have phones. But did you know that this rule will get lifted once they get their first win? Based on the statements of several K-pop idols, it appears that they are typically granted permission to use their personal phones only after achieving first place in a music show. Or, well, until the company decides to give them access to their own personal phones. Stacy, for example, got told that they wouldn't get their phones back until they get their first win, with the agency's CEO drawing criticism for enforcing a limitation that is so against a basic and essential human need. Although phone restrictions are not a recent thing in the K-pop industry, with Oh My Girl and G-Friend, senior friends of Stacy, allegedly having their phones confiscated by their agencies for years as well, fans believe that the practice is generally unnecessary, especially considering the day and age that we live in. But get this, Stacy's no phone ban wasn't lifted even after the girls managed to get their first win. They got their first music show win with Stereotype on SBS's The Show, and while both the fans and members were ecstatic over the win, the group's agency was unmoved in their decision of restricting Stacy's access to their phones. It was discovered that their CEO would only give back their phones to them if they emerged victorious on a public broadcasting channel such as KBS's Music Bank, NBC's Music Core, or SBS's Inkigayo. Fans viewed this policy as unfair because winning on public broadcasting music shows is more challenging due to the intense competition, and this policy undermines the efforts of fans who helped the group secure their initial wins. Apparently, some idols are not even allowed to take pictures with their fans in public. Back in 2022, TXT Soobin was asked about any limitations the group may have when it comes to signing autographs or taking photos with fans in public. During TXT's first world tour in the summer of 2022, videos of their outings were shared, and in some of them, the members appeared apologetic as their security team declined fans' requests for photographs. Fans thought that this happened because of privacy and to respect the artists, but it turns out that it was for an entirely different reason. As it turns out, one of the main reasons why idols have strict rules against taking photos with fans is the possibility of individuals acting as fans while having harmful intentions. For instance, someone could appear friendly when meeting an idol, but later claim online that the idol was rude or hostile, and the photo evidence of their interaction could provide credibility to the accuser's story. They can still sign autographs though, so keep your hopes up. JYP Entertainment is known to be a fun company who are pretty easygoing, but the truth couldn't be more different from this. In fact, all idols and employees that work for JYP Entertainment are strictly banned from going into bars that only have women servers. Typically, these bars employ exclusively female staff to serve male customers with drinks and conversations, so everyone was quite shocked by this rule. Park Jin-young, founder of JYP Entertainment, said, "When I first told everyone, they were outraged. They asked, then where do we meet and discuss business? Everyone meets there." He responded firmly to his employees, reiterating that breaking the rule was strictly prohibited and would lead to termination of their contracts. He said, "I told them, it doesn't matter if the company fails. As soon as you put one foot into one of those bars, then prepare to be fired." Talk about being strict. Since we're already on the topic of JYP rules, let's talk about their rule of not allowing their trainees to sing Korean songs during monthly evaluation. A former member of Madtown HO shared that when he was a JYP Entertainment trainee, he wasn't allowed to sing Korean songs when monthly evaluations were taking place. He shared that if he were to ask his vocal coach whether they can sing Korean songs, they would get a slap in the back and get a no as an immediate answer. HO shared that he himself didn't know why they couldn't sing a Korean song, but whatever JYP thinks is right. JYP Entertainment are also known for their very strict diets. Every company forces their trainees and idols to diet, but JYP are especially known for being strict. The diets of idols are closely monitored, so while they work hard to improve their skills, they have to sacrifice a lot of delicious food. Former JYP Entertainment trainee Kimberly Chen shockingly shared the extreme measures the company took to ensure that she maintained a minimum weight. Kimberly was expected to keep her weight at around 38 kilograms, an unattainable goal for a growing teenager without medical assistance. To resolve this, she revealed that the company gave her slimming pills and made her take 5 at once, despite the recommended dosage being only 1 pill per intake. Twice's Momo is also known for her very extreme diet that she went through when she was yet to debut. She had to lose weight before debuting, with the higher-ups telling her that she wouldn't be able to take the showcase step on stage until she did so. So, Momo resorted to eating cubes of ice for the whole week. She also spent most of her time at the gym and was constantly spitting in order to dehydrate herself. Her diet got so bad that she would lie down and be afraid that she wouldn't wake up the next day, just because her company was so strict with her diet. We also all know that idols aren't allowed to date, or so the companies may claim to make fans believe that the idols are available, but some of them are lenient about this rule, as idols are allowed to date if they're able to keep it a secret. WM Entertainment, the agency behind Oh My Girl, is quite strict regarding this rule though, going as far as to not let female idols make eye contact with the opposite gender. In addition to them not being allowed to use makeup or wear shorts or miniskirts that came above the knee, they weren't allowed to look at male idols. One of the members, Mimi, was once asked if she had been in a secret relationship, and she responded, "The management of the company was so strict that the manager tapped me when I was standing with male idols when they moved out. Then I turned around looking at the wall." The cast members of Knowing Bros were surprised by the response and asked, "What kind of Joseon dynasty is that?" Mimi then replied, "When our eyes meet, it becomes a kiss." Imagine not even being allowed to make eye contact. How messed up is that? BTS also weren't strangers to strict rules by their company. One of these rules is that they were not allowed to appear on TV shows of third-party entities who are not HYBE's partners or whose content they have no influence over. This regulation was closely followed by BTS when they first debuted and for a long time afterward, as they preferred to have their own programs like Run BTS where they could feel at ease. However, recently, BTS have been more comfortable participating in shows that they enjoy and having a say in the content being produced. For instance, Jin made appearances on My Alcohol Diary and Running Man, while J-Hope was a guest on a talk show alongside IU, and V made an appearance on a radio show. But where do these strict rules even come from? Let's go back and uncover how they started in the first place. If you've been into K-pop even for a short period, you might have noticed that idols don't use social media much. And even if they do, their social presence is heavily controlled and monitored by their companies, whether that be Instagram posts, tweets, or TikTok videos. They seem to speak a little more freely on platforms like Bubble and Weverse, mainly using it to communicate with fans, but even there it appears that they're not as free as we might think. To some, this is definitely strange, as Western celebrities use their social media to talk to fans and express their thoughts on different matters. However, when it comes to idols, companies have probably learned their lesson from the past and limited their social media use for a reason. Now, we're not arguing that this kind of control is right, because idols are interesting individuals, and it's obvious that we would want to hear more of their thoughts and feelings. But second-generation idols were quite messy, and sometimes they took their drama to social media. One example of this is the infamous case of Tiara. In case you weren't aware of what happened with the group, one of the members, Hwayoung, and her sister made indirect accusations against the other Tiara members of mistreatment through shady tweets and retweets. Because of their tweets, people thought that the Tiara members were being shady with their tweets as well, and thus one of the biggest scandals in the K-pop industry began. Tiara's Hwayoung wasn't the only one being shady on Twitter though. 2PM member Junkei is also known for a tweet that he made when he accused another group of sajegi. When 2PM had their comeback in September of 2014, Junkei tweeted, "Sajegi? #everybody knows," before deleting the tweet. The tweet was interpreted by Korean news and netizens in relation to 2PM's loss to Teen Top on a music show. Accusations of sajegi are quite serious, and even though Junkei deleted his tweet quickly, the damage was already done. The rule comes in handy sometimes. Former Day6 member Jay had some infamous tweets as well, like the one where he called the group's fans stupid for criticizing Park Jin-young. Knowing these cases, it's no surprise that the companies don't want their idols running wild on social media in case they start a mistreatment scandal or call their fans stupid. Idols nowadays also aren't seen giving a lot of political statements or generally any statements that might disclose their beliefs, and that's because of second-generation idols as well. Super Junior member Siwon is a proud supporter of former United States President Ronald Reagan, going as far as to post edited pictures of himself and Reagan. When Moon Jae-in was running for the presidency against Park Geun-hye, second-generation group 24K sang a campaign song for him. However, even though Park Geun-hye won the election, he was later impeached. As a result, 24K was placed on a blacklist because of their support for Moon Jae-in during the campaign. Chinese idols have also gotten into a lot of trouble due to their vocal support of the Chinese Communist Party, but one of the most known cases of a K-pop idol being shunned because of politics was that of Twice's Tui. In 2015, during a variety show, Tui was asked to raise a flag that represents her nationality, so she held up a Taiwanese flag alongside a South Korean flag and introduced herself as Taiwanese. This caused fans to accuse her of profiting from her mainland Chinese audience while supporting Taiwanese independence, and another Taiwanese singer accused her of being a Taiwanese independent independence activist. As a result, she faced consequences such as losing endorsements, being banned from Chinese television, and being suspended temporarily from TWICE activities. JYP Entertainment, the agency representing TWICE, made her apologize to China following their ban on TWICE from performing in China. This incident was then exploited by the three candidates running for election at the time to further their own political agendas. So it's no wonder that companies don't want their idols to get into politics. During the last election in South Korea, where the candidates were represented by the colors blue and red and the numbers 1 and 2, idols went as far as to not wear these certain colors and didn't throw up peace signs so people wouldn't assume who they were voting for. Talk about being careful. Even though K-pop idols are the ones that endorse alcoholic drinks the most, they're also the ones who are banned from drinking. The reason is pretty simple actually. K-pop idols are considered role models and need to maintain a professional and disciplined image. Agencies probably restrict alcohol consumption to avoid any negative incidents that could harm an idol's reputation. Instances of idols driving under the influence of alcohol have occurred, and Koreans strongly criticize drinking and driving, with some artists even losing their careers over it. Another restriction may be because the intense schedules and training in K-pop require good health and performance, something that alcohol can clash with. To keep idols in their best shape, agencies may discourage or limit alcohol consumption. Another reason is the legal drinking age in South Korea, which is 19. A lot of actors and idols have had their careers affected because of underage drinking, which is why the companies aren't fond of letting their artists drink. This rule isn't as harsh as it was, since idols openly go on drinking shows now, but that doesn't mean that the Korean public is supportive of this. The K-pop industry is notorious for their dating ban as well. The rule originated in J-pop, like most of K-pop's regulations. It was implemented particularly by AKB48's producer Akimoto Yasushi. It was originally enforced in Hello Project, and specifically Morning Musume, before AKB48 was formed in 2005. The concept behind this rule is that idols who are not allowed to date will attract more fans by appearing more accessible and devoted to their fans, thus maintaining a sense of purity. It's also speculated that the ban was partially implemented to prevent younger idols from getting into trouble, although this cannot be confirmed with any certainty. Japanese idols have gotten kicked out of their groups and were made to shave their heads and apologize because they were caught dating, so yeah, it's serious for them. However, in addition to giving the fans the image of availability, the K-pop industry has another reason to enforce the dating ban, and that's because of Kim Song-jae's unfortunate passing. Kim Song-jae was a member of the duo group Deuce, who were active in the 90s. After the duo disbanded, the two decided to pursue solo careers, but Song-jae's wouldn't last very long. After his successful solo debut stage, Song-jae, along with his backup dancers and girlfriend named Kim, spent the night at a hotel. But the very next day, he was discovered unconscious in the hotel. The cause of his passing was determined to be a substance found in animal stimulants like xylitol and terazol. It was revealed that someone had injected the stimulant into his body, so the case turned into a criminal investigation, with Song-jae's girlfriend becoming the prime suspect. Police revealed that Song-jae had broken up with his girlfriend over the phone a few days prior to his passing, and for good reason. Allegedly, during one of the concerts, she went on stage and yelled at the fans, demanding them to leave her boyfriend alone. Whenever Song-jae's fans tried to approach him, his girlfriend would become upset and go to great lengths to prevent them from getting close, which is why it's believed that she was the one who did the horrible thing to him. Taking his passing as a warning, K-pop companies might think that it's better to prevent idols from dating so that they can avoid something as tragic as this. The ban on tattoos isn't only enforced by companies, but by broadcasting agencies as well. Tattooed idols are frowned upon and encouraged to hide their tattoos as much as possible. Idols must use clothing or flesh-colored patches to hide any visible body art during their performances. This is likely due to South Korea's conservative stance on tattoos, which are generally considered illegal except when performed by medical professionals. The last rule we're going to be discussing is the rule that members of a group should all live in a dorm together. This regulation probably originated from J-pop as well, especially the groups under Johnny and Associates. J-pop and K-pop both want to sell the idea that group members are close and have a relationship similar to siblings, so what better way to force them to be close than making them all live together in a dorm? In addition to that, dorms are a very logical solution to a problem that companies deal with. Consider this: many idols make their debut in their teens or early 20s, and in a typical non-famous life, they would likely be living with their parents or friends. It's reasonable to assume that companies wouldn't want to leave these young adults to navigate life on their own in separate places. Besides, the expenses of renting individual accommodations for each member would be astronomical, so the best solution to this is putting them in a dorm together. Korean entertainment officials also claim that living together makes it easier to handle and safeguard the idols, as juggling jam-packed schedules becomes a piece of cake when everyone resides under one roof, saving heaps of time in gathering all the members. However, this system has proven to be faulty because, believe it or not, making people spend all their time time together is going to lead to conflicts whether you want to or not. SHINee member Key actually talked about how moving out of the dorm made them grow closer. According to Key, he would get sometimes annoyed by normal things that the other members would do, like walking around the dorm. There he realized that the other members could feel the same way about him, leading him to move out altogether. Onyu also added, "There have been times when I would change how I ate for the others. Key really doesn't like chewing noises, so I used to melt the food in my mouth. Whatever feels right for them." However, some of the biggest restrictions, like the infamous dating ban, are now being questioned, and in some cases, completely removed. So let's take a closer look at why K-pop companies are finally loosening their grip and what this means for idols moving forward. Dating is a very touchy topic when it comes to the K-pop industry. While in the West, artists openly date and sometimes even do it as PR stunts, the K-pop industry has different norms. Since fan service is a long-standing tradition in K-pop, idols and celebrities are marketed as fantasies rather than people, encouraging fans to form emotional connections with them. This can lead to an unspoken expectation that idols give up any chance of a private life for their career and fans, and that includes dating. This is mostly done so the idols can maintain the image of being accessible to their fans and their fans only, so companies have been enforcing dating bans against them since the dawn of time to avoid any rumors about their romantic lives, or at least so we thought. But recently, numerous idols came out to debunk the so-called dating ban. It's been long rumored that entertainment companies don't actually stop their idols from dating anyone but have just said so because it would be easier to sell the fantasy to desperate fans. However, the big three companies have proved otherwise over the years. When it comes to YG Entertainment, they have been adamant about keeping their male and female trainees separate from each other to avoid any chance of contact between them for a while now. Jisoo from Blackpink once revealed that they even have different meal times to prevent any contact between female and male trainees, and if the male trainees haven't finished eating, the manager goes to great lengths and covers them up so they can stop female trainees from looking at them. When Bobby from iKON appeared on Radio Star, he revealed that despite practicing and debuting around the same time, there's a notable lack of closeness between iKON and Blackpink. During the time they were under the same company, they were forbidden from communicating or spending time together except for occasional interactions in commercials or when working on songs. Blackpink had also revealed that they could never meet with other YG groups, and even if they had the chance to, they couldn't greet them. Looking back on how much Big Bang and 21 used to interact and show their friendship, it's crazy that the company got so strict when it came to interactions between their trainees and idols. As for JYP Entertainment, they were pretty open about the fact that they didn't let their trainees or idols date. According to the founder of the company, Park Jin-young, this policy stemmed from his personal experience. On an episode of Life Bar, JYP shared that at the beginning of his career, he had revealed that he was dating someone. Even though dating wasn't as taboo back then, artists, especially the ones who had just debuted, steered away from talking about their love lives. So when JYP revealed his then relationship, his popularity took a bit of a hit. He also talked about the hard time he faced when he openly revealed he was dating. He mentioned how expressing love to fans became a bit tricky when everyone knew he was taken, unlike single idols who can freely say "I love you" to their fans. So he started banning idols under his company from dating for 5 years at the start of their careers, and once those 5 years were over, they could do anything they wanted. However, he was very strict about it, and it said that male idols aren't even allowed to go to bars with all female servers to avoid dating rumors. However, the 5-year ban ended up being shortened to 3 years because JYP said that no one followed it and it was causing too much tension. To some people, JYP is the most sensible when it comes to treating this rule out of the big three companies, SM, JYP, and YG. Since idols need to maintain a single image to attract fans, it makes sense to be upfront about when the dating ban will be lifted. This way, there are no surprises when these idols eventually get into relationships, and the idols won't face consequences as long as they have been in the industry for more than 3 years after their debut. Netizens also argued that the dating rule was more than sensible since in the industry that they were in, dating scandals could affect the idols' fellow members and their image, but it seems like all three companies have loosened up their rules these recent years. Out of the big three companies, SM seems to be the most lenient when it comes to dating bans. Back in 2014, actress Lee Yeon-hee expressed that the thing she hated the most about SM was that they weren't banned from dating as long as they weren't caught. A former trainee at the company also said that the ban wasn't forced, but trainees chose not to do so just so they wouldn't cause trouble. This was made official by former Girls' Generation member Jessica Jung. According to Jessica, there was no such thing as a dating ban in the first first place, at least when it came to SM Entertainment. She appeared on the Daily Catch-Up podcast as a guest on December 20th, and she was asked about the supposed dating ban. Jessica mentioned that she gets both sides of the debate on whether idols should be restricted from dating or not. Sharing her experience, she said that she had a bit of an advantage since she was close to the SM employees and managers, so she could be more open and honest about everything, including her love life. Because she had formed close relationships with the company's staff, she didn't shy away from discussing who she wanted to date or who she was dating, which, believe it or not, made things a lot easier for her. The staff were very supportive of her, going as far as to help her sneak around with her boyfriends and never made her life difficult since they could easily shield her from getting caught. In fact, Jessica argued that letting the company know about who you're dating makes it easier for them to handle the situation if things were to go wrong. However, if idols kept their relationships a secret or caused issues, it became harder for the company to intervene and provide support if the relationship was exposed or there were any controversies surrounding the person the idol was dating. An example of how this works is Hyuna, who recently informed the public that she was in a relationship with former Highlight member Jun Young. Considering Hyuna's extensive career of nearly 2 decades and her status as one of the industry's most legendary artists, imposing a dating ban on her would be absurd in the first place. Plus, she was openly in a relationship with Dawn until November 2022, so there's no reason to ban her from dating someone else. However, seeing as how her now boyfriend is riddled with scandals, her company would probably advise her to be quiet about it and keep it under wraps to not taint her reputation. They can't stop her from dating anyone, no matter if they approve of them or not, but since she's under their label, they're supposed to prevent her career from being affected by stupid scandals. This is probably why Hyuna didn't let them know that she would be revealing her relationship. She knew that this would be a PR disaster, and if she went by company rules, they would never let her come out with it. They're probably not going to terminate her contract over this, but this is the second time that she's gone behind her company's back to reveal her relationship, and people believe it's probably strained their partnership. As for YG, the fans have been joking about how the company has had so many scandals these recent years that dating controversies are the least of their worries. This could explain why their responses to dating rumors are always so casual and nonchalant. Remember when Jennie and Kai were exposed to be dating and they responded with "SM Entertainment will release an official statement"? Or when news of Taeyang and actress Min Hyorin broke out and they said, "We can't contact Taeyang at the moment, but if it's true, congratulations." Nowadays, they tend to state that since it's their artist's personal life, they can't confirm or deny anything, which is an appropriate response. Treasure's Jihoon had even mentioned having a first love and expressed his fear of making mistakes on TV, particularly saying the wrong things, and nobody made a big deal out of it. So while you won't have idols publicly exposing their relationship like Yuna, they won't be crucified by the company for having normal human emotions and acting on them. JYP has also become very lenient when it comes to their idols dating, as we mentioned before, but lowering the dating ban to 3 years is not the only thing he has changed recently. In fact, it has been rumored that they had more of an SM policy of do it but don't get caught, but now it seems like their bans have completely been lifted. Recently, Lily and Haewon from NMIXX were asked if it was true that JYP idols couldn't date for 7 years like it was rumored. Lily's response was a short one as she said only, "I don't think so." Haewon, on the other hand, didn't want to answer, acknowledging that it was a sensitive topic for fans to hear about. This has led people to think that the idols are either more open about the fact that the ban is not as strict as everyone thought, or that the ban has been completely lifted. It does make sense that companies aren't as strict about dating as they used to be. With so many big idols coming out to reveal their relationships and getting support for it, maybe companies have finally realized that the fact that idols date isn't such a big deal. Sure, there are concerns that rookie idols may be affected by a dating controversy, but there's no reason to hold older, more established idols to the same standards. EXO's Chen, for example, still gets a lot of hate from netizens for his marriage, but thankfully he and SM have stood their ground and refused to cave in to the fans' demands to remove him from the group. By doing so, SM might have a hand in normalizing relationships in the idol industry and try to show everyone that this isn't something that artists should lose their career over. Some rules aren't even from the companies, since music shows themselves have strict demands that every idol must obey. K-pop music show performances are one of the most anticipated parts of promotions. However, many fans might not realize exactly how many rules are set in place for the idols attending these shows. While K-pop is often associated with high-energy, edgy performances, there's a surprisingly strict rule when it comes to male idols showing skin, specifically their chests. Korean broadcasting standards demand that male idols avoid showing more than one side of their pecs at a time, time, as having both is apparently pushing boundaries. This rule has led to some memorable onstage accidents, as it can sometimes be very hard to keep clothing in line while performing. When BTS first burst onto the scene in 2013, their bold and intense performances helped set them apart. In one now famous incident on KBS's Music Bank, BTS member RM had what fans called a slip while performing their concept trailer. With the performance having some quite intense moves, RM tore off his jacket only to realize that he'd accidentally ripped his tank top too. And because of the music show rules, RM had to spend the rest of the performance slyly attempting to cover one side of his chest so as to not break the rule further. However, despite his best efforts, fans spotted the accident, and it has since turned into an iconic moment for many BTS fans. But male idols aren't the only ones held to weird standards, as their rule is almost as surprising as the one for female idols, since they are prohibited from showing their belly button on screen. While this might be a very strange rule to international audiences, South Korea takes it very seriously, as the Communication Standards Commission enforced a ban on belly buttons on 3 major networks: SBS, MBC, and KBS. Along with the existing restrictions on cleavage, this rule became a strict part of the broadcasting guidelines, especially affecting younger idols. For K-pop stylists and wardrobe teams, this restriction means that they have to rely heavily on high-waisted bottoms and creative layering, especially for performances involving teenage idols. This rule was applied across the board, but it was particularly strict for underage idols to ensure that their outfits stayed appropriate by broadcasting standards. We've seen many examples of young artists having to especially bend to this rule. For example, when G-Friend debuted on SBS's Inkigayo in 2015, most of the members were still in high school, and their stylists opted for high-waisted pants to avoid any issues. Some idols even reportedly took extra steps by taping over their belly buttons just in case a top rode up unexpectedly. Fans often debate whether these restrictions are outdated or overly restrictive, given that K-pop idols frequently wear more revealing outfits in music videos and concerts. However, South Korean television regulations remain rooted in the idea of maintaining a certain level of public decency on air, especially given that K-pop music shows air at times when young audiences are tuning in. Korean music shows have more than just strict dress codes for idols. They also have serious rules when it comes to lyrics and dance moves. Swearing on TV is, not surprisingly, off limits. However, even lyrics that get too suggestive are banned from broadcast where family-friendly content is the standard. Because of this, idols often have to modify their lyrics if there's any questionable language. G-Dragon famously ran into this issue back in 2012. He was forced to change the lyrics of his song That XX while performing on SBS's Inkigayo, as it included a curse word which he simply changed to the letter X to avoid breaking the rule. These adjustments help songs make it onto TV, but fans have sometimes spoken up about how the censored versions can lose a bit of the song's original vibe. The rules don't just stop at swearing. Lyrics with any hint of suggestive content are also heavily censored on music shows. One of the most famous examples is TVXQ's hit song Mirotic, where one line forced them to change the song to make sure they comply with the broadcasting rules. The line "I got you under my skin" was deemed too suggestive, so they changed it to "I chose you under my sky" to fit the clean requirements. While the changes allowed TVXQ to perform the song at the Golden Disc Awards, fans felt that the rewrites altered the song's original intensity. Dance routines aren't allowed to get too bold either, as idols might risk getting cut off camera entirely. Because of these rules, there have been some quite interesting changes in songs and choreography over the years in order to be allowed to showcase some idols' performances, as choreography that's deemed too provocative is often modified or outright banned. Hyuna is a well-known example of an artist who's faced these restrictions. In a 2020 appearance on Radio Star, she explained that when she shows too much skin, like in sleeveless outfits, she's told to cover up more. To follow these guidelines, Hyuna even went as far as creating an alternative music video for TV broadcast that showed mostly close-up shots of her face instead of full-body dance moves. But even this was criticized for being too suggestive because of her intense gaze. Another group that faced issues with choreography is DSP Media's Rainbow. In 2010, they performed their song called A, and the choreography included a fun move where they lifted their shirts to reveal their abs. However, the KCSC found the move too suggestive and banned it on TV. Rainbow's performance had to be re-choreographed, but the original move became iconic among fans. These strange rules make it clear that image is everything, and maintaining a clean look on television is a huge part of that. Because of this, K-pop idols face another surprising restriction restriction. They aren't allowed to show their tattoos on South Korean television. Even though tattoos are becoming more popular among young people in Korea and around the world, this rule stems from Korea's complex relationship with tattoos, which are still often considered taboo. In South Korea, tattoos are viewed differently than in many other countries. Because of Korean law, tattooing is technically classified as a medical procedure. This means that legally, tattoo artists are required to have a medical degree. For most tattoo artists, getting a medical degree just to be able to tattoo is extremely unrealistic. So many tattoo studios operate in secret or under the radar, which has kept the industry somewhat hidden. Tattoos are also still associated with certain negative stereotypes, including connections to gang activity, and while these views are slowly changing, with the younger generations breaking taboos, there's still a long way to go before mainstream TV removes these restrictions. When K-pop idols get tattoos, they often go to these hidden studios, which is why showing them on TV is such a big no-no. This can be tricky for idols who love their body art. Many fans have noticed that idols with visible tattoos, like BTS's Jungkook, cover their ink with makeup, bandages, or special clothing whenever they appear on music shows. This helps them follow the rules, but it often leaves fans disappointed, as tattoos can be an important part of an idol's personal style and self-expression. One side effect of this rule is that K-pop stylists and wardrobe teams have had to become very creative. From long sleeves and gloves to strategically placed accessories, idols manage to hide their tattoos in ways that work with their performance looks, and it's even become a bit of a fun game for fans to try and spot the outlines of idols' tattoos as they sometimes show through fabric or behind their cover-ups. For an agency, getting their idols onto a music show in the first place can also be a complicated and high-stakes process, as the broadcasting networks have some quite strict rules and guidelines. This is all happening because of the hierarchy behind the music show productions, as the top are chief producers who manage multiple programs, including music shows, and have the final say on who gets to perform and who doesn't. Below them are the producers or PDs who run the individual music shows themselves. For a K-pop agency, getting on the good side of both the CP and PD is key. Since music shows still hold a lot of influence in helping rookie idols gain recognition, agencies are often willing to do whatever it takes to get their idols a spot, even if it means making binding deals with the networks. One of the most common ways to secure a spot on a music show is through what is known as give-and-take agreements. For example, if an agency has a new or lesser-known group they want to promote, they might have to go as far as promising to let one of their top stars appear on a different variety show or drama produced by the same network. This is why big idols might appear on some lesser-known shows on the broadcasting network. Unfortunately, this system isn't a win-win situation for everyone. Music shows are actually expensive for idols and agencies. A single appearance can cost thousands of dollars in expenses for styling, choreography, meals, backup dancers, and transportation. When you add it up, 4 weeks of promotion on music shows can cost as much as around $84,000. And in return, idols aren't paid very much for appearing and performing. Most groups receive only around $250 per appearance, which is barely enough to cover even a fraction of their expenses. Because these shows have low ratings and don't bring in much advertising money, they can't afford to pay idols more even if they want to. The networks are already aware that music shows aren't profitable for agencies, but they still use their power to maintain influence over idol groups. If an agency decides not to have any of its idols appear on music shows, they risk being shut out from other more popular network programs like Running Man or King of Masked Singer, which makes these deals absolutely necessary for idol promotion. Anyways, this creates a vicious cycle as agencies feel pressured to comply with music show rules because they don't want to lose access to the network's entire lineup of shows, which, as a result, would severely limit their idols' exposure. In the end, agencies are forced to work within a strict system where they have to negotiate, compromise, and even sacrifice their profits just to get their idols a few precious minutes of screen time. For smaller agencies, this kind of pressure can be overwhelming, but as many simply don't have any other option, they often feel they have to play by the rules no matter how unfair they may seem. Despite the strict rules that begin with getting idols on the shows in the first place, K-pop companies are still more than happy to send their idols for several weeks of promotion where some of these strict rules stand strong. And when idols can't take it anymore, some end up breaking the rules. Let's look at the times they actually got caught.
We all know that K-pop idols have to follow strict and sometimes ridiculous rules given by their company. In today's video, we're gonna talk about the crazy things K-pop idols did that broke their company's rules. Faking an illness. When idols speak about their trainee days, there's almost a 100% chance that they will speak about the ruthless and stressful diets that they had to go through in order to maintain the perfect figure. Even though they always try their best to stick to their diet, sometimes the temptation to have a little cheat meal is stronger than them. Back in 2021, RM from BTS BTS shared a story about what he did in order to get one of his favorite foods, jjajangmyeon, also known as black bean noodles. In an episode of You Quiz on the Block, RM shared that he made a fuss several times over his favorite dish. However, since he and the members were on a strict diet, he wasn't allowed to have black bean noodles. That was until RM decided he's had enough and decided to treat himself. Turns out that RM decided to fake a stomachache to get out of the dance practice, only to visit the nearest black bean noodle restaurant. Once he came back, everyone could tell that he just returned from the restaurant, and unfortunately, he got caught. Food troubles at JYP. Staying on the topic of food, let's talk about the hilarious but very clever way TWICE used to sneak in their late night snacks. During the first episode of TWICE's Elegant Private Life in 2016, the girls sat around in their living room at night to eat pig's feet and some pizza. Sana then went on to explain how back when they were trainees, she really craved pig's feet, but since there was a CCTV in front of the door, they couldn't go about it in the regular way and had to come up with a plan on how to get their food in secret. The show then revealed that the girls threw down a long string of shoelaces tied together from a window to the delivery man who was waiting below their windows. The girls told the delivery man that the money was tied to the string while they apologized for the troubles. The delivery man then tied the bags full of food to the shoelaces so they could pull it back up. Throughout their career, TWICE have shared different stories about their diets and the different ways they used to have their favorite food even though they were on a diet. One time, Momo recalled one incident where they were caught eating in the practice room since there was no other place where they could eat and were made to go to the gym together. What came off as a shock was when Donghyun shared that they used to often eat in the restroom when they were trainees because it was a pleasant and clean place to eat. During another live show, TWICE mentioned that they used to get scolded for taking a lot of food out of the cafeteria and that other idols and trainees used to sneak in food for them. The TWICE girls mentioned that Bangtan from Stray Kids was one of those people. Honestly, it's insane that trainees have to go on an undercover mission just to get some of their favorite food. Girlfriend in a suitcase. Another thing that idols don't always follow is the famous dating ban. It doesn't matter if the fans are okay with their idols dating or not, they will find ways to date either way. In February of 2021, former member of the group Ajax, Dowoo, opened up about the ridiculous things he had to go through in order to date his now wife. They met while promoting in Japan when his girlfriend, Haejin, was an active model and Dowoo was promoting with Ajax. While they are now a happily married couple, their dating years weren't always so easy. The first time they were caught, it was when they both stayed in a hotel and they were caught by a hotel employee. Dowoo's agency, JYP Entertainment, was then notified about their hotel meetup, thus finding out about their relationship. Haejin continued, "About a month later, Dowoo comes to me with a massive suitcase. It was huge. You guessed it, Dowoo really ended up smuggling his girlfriend inside a huge suitcase." Haejin admitted that she was very scared when she was inside the suitcase, and Dowoo shared that the suitcase ended up looking completely disfigured because of Haejin. We all know that idols get creative when they want to date in secret, but this one might take the cake. Troubles with drinking. What seemed to be an ordinary live stream turned into something unexpected really quickly. During the live show, Donghyun made a little oopsie when she asked Momo to bring her a beer. She immediately realized her mistake and acted as if she said a different word. She even attempted to move the live show, but it was already too late and she found herself in an interesting situation. She attempted to trick the audience by claiming she said cola and not beer, and even tried to cover up the sound of the beer can opening. Donghyun's expression changed when she got an unexpected call from the agency, and the members had to change their original plans after that. In the end, Donghyun and Momo didn't end up drinking because it seemed like they could get into some serious trouble with the company if they did. These girls just keep on proving that they don't fear their agency's rules at all, and we love to see it. Partners in crime. It's no secret that Mark and Haechan didn't always have the best relationship, and they surely have been through some rough patches. During one of the radio shows they visited, Mark revealed how he got into trouble with their manager back when they were trainees. Mark broke some of the rules back then, and it might have been because of Haechan. As trainees, the members weren't allowed to go to the convenience store without anyone's permission too often. It wasn't surprising when Mark said that he usually followed the rules, but on that one day he decided to buy himself an ice cream. Haechan was coincidentally in the store as well, but he was there with a staff member. Of course, the staff member quickly found Mark, and the idol got scolded for breaking the rules. Even Deno himself joked that Mark got scolded because of Haechan. All that matters now is that Mark and Haechan grew closer and can laugh and joke about their trainee days. The HYBE troublemakers. Although Soobin looks like an angel, he's not a stranger to breaking some of the rules HYBE made for them. One time, he and Yeonjun shared that during their training period, they decided to munch on some pig's feet, which they were not allowed to have. While they were on a diet and working out a lot, the company also had a rule that no one can bring in any food. The day these two decided to break the rules, they got lucky because the company was basically a ghost town as no one was there and TXT were the only people in the building. They decided to be safe just in case and take their food to a specific hallway where there was no security security cameras. There, they could enjoy their cheap meal without anyone finding out. In March of 2022, Soobin hosted a V-Live where he was asked about TXT's future comeback. Soobin said he wanted to give their fans some clues, but revealed the reason why he couldn't. Turns out, Soobin was confronted about it by the company and said that the company advised him to be more careful when he goes live to chat with friends. Soobin stuck to his word and didn't reveal anything, although he said that it's not fun to keep the whole comeback a secret and not give out any spoilers. Truth about idol dating. During one of Coco and Gina Mang's videos, the two former trainees received a lot of questions regarding life in trainee dorms. Former member of Coco Sori, Coco suddenly confessed that she snuck in her boyfriend one time and that it was very possible. Gina Mang, who trained for 12 years under JYP Entertainment and Lowen Entertainment, confirmed that this used to happen all the time and that it's easier than people might expect. Coco might have it simpler than the others since she used to live in her own room, but she did spill some of the details how she and her members would sneak out all the time. According to Coco, the main hack was to use the blow dryer to make noise since their entry door used to make a beeping sound when opened and closed. She said, "So one of the tricks that we would do is we would take turns sneaking out. Someone would stand right in front of the manager's room and have the hairdryer on to make noise." Gina Mang then also shared how her famous idol friends date without anyone finding out. Gina admitted that she sometimes covers up for some of the K-pop couples who are also her close friends. She shared, "So they use me as a front to their company or to their parents or their friends, fans." Gina shared that when idols say that they're going out with her, they're actually going on a date. To make the cover-up as believable as possible, Gina actually meets up with the idol couple but leaves them soon so the couple can be alone for their date. Gina probably isn't the only one who covers up for her friends like that, so who knows how many idol couples are truly out there. She went against the CEO. We need to talk about Twice once again because these girls are the definition of fearless queens. In 2017, Taeyoung decided to make the big decision of cutting her hair without telling the CEO, Park Jin-young, about it. While the companies have all the rights to do whatever they want with idols' hair, the actual idols themselves have to consult it with the company beforehand, or it could lead to the stylist having to change the original look that they had in mind to fit the idol's new look. When Twice appeared on the show Weekly Idol, Taeyoung talked about her choice to change her hairstyle. She explained that she doesn't like to stick to just one hairstyle, and her long hair made her feel kind of stuck and she needed a change. Since Taeyoung didn't tell anyone about her choice to get a haircut, it's safe to say that Park Jin-young was surprised. The CEO said, "Your decision should have been known to the company before you went any further. You should have asked or mentioned this to the company before making a dramatic change like a haircut." That's it for today. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Bye!